I'd moved to Nashville from Louisiana in 1987, been hammering away at it, as you do, and gotten some road gigs, happening. Nothing much in the studio at that point. Worked with Carlene Carter and Joel Saunier, Leroy Parnell I had been out with, and it was a sad bus, the Leroy Parnell bus, and I'd gotten let go. The whole band had gotten let go because we were not a sad band, and so there was perhaps more frivolity than Leroy, who was in recovery at the time, was comfortable with. It was traumatic. I'd never been fired before from anything, and I worked so hard at it. So it was a blow. But right on the heels of that, a friend of mine was playing with Bocephus, with Hank Williams Jr., and he said that the drum seat was open in that gig, and would I be interested? They weren't even going to do auditions. If it worked out, the gig was mine. And all I could think about was, finally, that was at the time, that was going to be a paycheck as opposed to the sort of indentured servitude.
That's a huge opportunity.
It was a big opportunity. And I was not really a rebel flag wearing guy, but at the time I was thinking if that could get me out of this apartment and into a real a home for my family at the time, then I could probably suck it up and, toe the line. I always thought it would be kind of funny, And on top of that, and this is the best part, the opening act for the tour, for the Bocephus tour, was Leroy Parnell. So it gave me a wonderful chance to be like a really nice guy, yet at the same time, stick it right up his ass, So to say I was looking forward to it would be an understatement. So I worked really hard. I mean, it started, I couldn't get anything out of the office, and that's pretty normal, out of Hank's office. Eventually, they sent me, I think it was 17 or 18 CDs, and at least 8 live tapes. None of the CDs, no set list. I mean, there was no indication. It's like, here's 2 weeks worth of material, learn it, kind of thing. One of those things. So I really did. And how could I write charts? Like, he doesn't make a set list. So I sort of had done a big board, like a big cardboard, what do you call it, poster board thing with some, just some basic roadmap stuff for at least the most popular Bocephus songs, The Kansas City tape has, been played in every tour bus in the country, and it's just a complete meltdown, an artist losing his shit absolutely entirely in front of an audience that is turning on him. And but the fact of the matter was that Kansas City tape really wasn't that much different than the other tapes that he'd given, So, like, I'm really intrigued by this gig, and I'm thinking, man, there's no way I can fuck this up, I mean, because it was dreadful. And that's just the truth, And if he was standing right here, as long as he wasn't armed, I would say the same thing.
These were board tapes that they sent you.
Yeah, board tapes in more ways than one. Anyway, so I went through all this stuff. I took it very seriously at the time, and we rehearsed for a week, 5 days. We went over all the, the hits and a few curveballs, and enough that the band, by the end of the week, it was like high fives all around. I mean, they were just like, we love you. Hank's going to love you. This is, we've never sounded better. This is going to be great.
The rehearsals were without.
Oh, yeah, they went really, it was very smooth. Lunch, it was fun. We just felt like, and on top of that, the bass player, I think his name was Ray, just as it somehow happens, chemically, we worked. It just felt like, oh, that's a bass player that I can work with, It just seemed like we had some mojo or whatever. Oh, right. Oh, no. Are you kidding? I don't even think he was in the state. I think he was, he was not at rehearsal. I'm not even sure, like I said, I'm not even sure what he knew, really. He knew he'd fired somebody. Probably for a few hours he remembered that he had fired somebody. But that's probably all he knew at this point, in hindsight.
You don't mind saying what the gig paid?
Well, it was up there. I got to say, I think it was about $800 a show at that point. So we were talking about, a substantial increase in pay. So yeah, I was ready. So I get a call, meet the tour bus, where else? Shoney's, which is long gone on Demumbrian.
Oh, it was down by Music Row?
Yeah. Any given, used to be there like 6 or 8 tour bus. You had to try to figure out which one was yours, So yeah, I met the tour bus down there at Shoney's and got on a bus that was, I'd been on some buses at this point, but this was a bus, This was a bus. I think it was fully adorned in Hank Jr. splendor, with winged Hank things on the wall and 45 pistols crossed on, the hang your coat on, that kind of, full Western kitsch.
Was Hank flying, or did he have his own tour bus?
I think Hank just appears. He was not on the bus.
Did you get to meet or have any interaction with Merle Kilgore?
Yes. Yeah. I actually knew Merle Kilgore a little bit because he's a Shreveporter, and I spent some time in Shreveport, Louisiana, and, Merle is from there and a legend, he's a legend in Nashville too, of course.
Can you tell people a little bit about who he is?
Well, he managed Hank, but he was a songwriter. But he was a successful songwriter and publisher and just general music business entrepreneur, I think, before he took on. But he's had Hank for a long time.
He gave up his own career to manage Hank. I think it was one of the only people that Bocephus still trusted.
Yeah, maybe so. Well, he was all thumbs up, and I'd been the drummer on the Louisiana Hayride, so that the Shreveport. He, of course, had a long history with that show, so it's all good. All this stuff is like just I'm just thinking this is really coming together. I think I might have even told Merle that I was really wanting to bring more of a kind of Bossier Strip, which the Bossier Strip outside of Shreveport is famous live music and strip club. Area it serviced the Barksdale Air Force Base there for years, but very, very seedy, neon, on the outskirts of town. Everybody who's anybody in the world of R&B and country has played there. So I had done a lot of work out there and a lot of very seedy, gnarly, kind of clubs. And so I actually mentioned to him that I was really going to try to bring a Bossier Strip vibe to it, and he thought that was really funny, So I felt like, man, this. Who would have thought it? Raised in New Orleans, playing R&B my whole life, and the gig that I was meant to play was Hank Williams Jr. It was meant to be. And we did the gig, and it was not any gig. It wasn't like we got to start out small. We went straight to the Astrodome. The Houston Astrodome for the Houston Livestock Show, which is fucking huge. And what I didn't know until I walked into the Astrodome that day was that Hank has a revolving stage. Things weren't confused enough. So, you're in the middle of a revolving stage in the Astrodome, the smell of bullshit wafting through the air, more ways than one. It just, it was a fucking livestock show. And I took a half a Xanax. I was ready to go. And we did the show. I have my notes. The crew was fantastic. Everybody patted me on the back. It's going to be great. And before I know it, up to this point, I've not met Bocephus. There was no here's the new drummer, here's the new guy, welcome, don't do this, none of that. Just suddenly he's on stage with me and I'm playing, whatever. I can't even remember what he started with. It's the one he always starts with. But anyway, we played the gig and lo and behold, it actually feels pretty good, it really does. It's like, this is what this band needs, it doesn't need, double kick drums and gongs and 25 toms, whatever the guy had. It just it needs, Stan Lynch. It needs someone, laying it down, rebel style, And so I had my 3 cymbals and my 4 drums, and I think I might have even added a drum, but it all seemed to be going swimmingly. But at one point, Hank, who likes to play all the instruments on stage, he's even got a song about it, I think. He likes to play steel and he'll play bass and, funk out, and he'll play, leads and he likes to play the drums. And so at one point he looked at me kind of funny. I couldn't really figure out what was going on. At the time I thought maybe that he had just now realized that he had a new drummer. I thought it was entirely possible that in the haze of whatever, he had forgotten that he fired the other guy and that there was a new guy coming on. And so that sort of looked like sort of the shock of recognition, like, oh, that's not the guy. That's what I thought it was. And so we played the rest of the show. End of the show, I mean, the band couldn't get me fast enough. Drinks in the bar, oh my God, that might be one of the best shows we've ever done. And I'm seriously not making this, not just because I can screw up shit. I'm not trying to be braggy here, but it seemed like it was working. They were thrilled. And we're getting on, I get hammered that night with the band. It's a big night. Get on the bus. I feel horrible. The next day, we're going back to Nashville. It's just a one-off. Anyway, so we get back. We're driving on the road back, and I see my buddy, who I knew the road manager from way back. He's on the phone. He's talking. He's looking very serious. Talking very seriously. Hangs up the phone, and then he says, "Paul, let's go in the back. I need to talk to you." So by now we're about 2 hours out of Nashville. So we go in the back, and he goes, "Man, I'm sorry, but Hank's decided to not, that it didn't work out. But thanks for all the hard work." But it didn't work out. And bearing in mind, I have not yet met Hank Williams Jr. He didn't come up to me and say, "Dude, great," or "Dude, ooh," nothing. So I said, "Well, what did he say? What was there? A comment or?" But he goes, all he said was, "Drop him off." And that's it. And that's the last I heard of that. If I ever write a book, it's going to be called "Drop Him Off," but that was it. And the end of story, I was done just like that. And it probably, I felt awful. I mean, I felt like I let my family down. I let my new buddies in the band down. I let Bocephus down. And so I was absolutely heartbroken. And I got a call from a friend of mine. A couple of months had gone by, my guitar player buddy. So we were finally get a chance to process this because I was hiding, it was a big deal. I've been fired twice in a row, and the second time after only one gig. So we got to talking, and he goes, "Well, you know what happened?" And I'm like, "I don't." And he goes, "Well, when Hank looked back at you, he was going to come back and play the drums, but he realized you were left-handed, and he wasn't going to be able to play a left-handed set of drums." So that recognition that I had imagined was something entirely different than what I suspected. And of course, at that point, I'm thinking, well, hell, I could have set up another set of drums for Hank. If I'd known $800 a night, I'll set up, 6 or 8 drum sets, But no, that was the deal. And I guess, he as soon as he realized that he wasn't going to get to come back there and jam on my kit, that I was not going to do.
How many people can say they've been fired by Bocephus for being left-handed?
I don't know. Maybe one of the ex-wives or something. I don't know, but oh God, yeah, it was. I mean, it was heartbreaking, of course. And now, of course, I've been in Nashville since 1987. I have no feelings left to hurt. I don't care. Nothing you can do that's going to hurt me at this point. And so I guess that's something.
Did you ever meet Hank Sr. or Hank Jr.? I mean.
No, I never. To this day, I've yet to meet the man. I've actually had a couple. I wouldn't call them opportunities, but I was close enough where I could have gone up and said something like, "Hey, man, remember that Houston Livestock show? Boy, we rocked." No.
Well, I appreciate you sharing the story with me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Tell everyone. I don't care.
Beware of those Bocephus.
Yeah. Watch out. Yeah. Watch out for both. I don't think it's paying $800 a show anymore. But maybe I'm wrong.